I don't know where to begin. Lauren has just been there every step of the way, and sometimes, most of the time, she's kicking me to say, get this done, get this done. And that's very helpful. I'm program chair, and it was in my accreditation year, and my mother was ill, all the excuses everybody has for, running out of time. And so, but to me, it was very important that I learned how to do the online component of my hybrid course really well, because after having it, I realized this course I've taught for 7 years, the last 2 years have been hybrid. I felt like the design lacked some things, the design of the course. And I had heard about course mapping and how awesome that was from some of the other faculty and health professions. And so the course mapping is what I was really hoping to learn about. Since summer, I moved from the OTA chair to the OT chair. And so in OTA, I had myself and one other faculty member. There were 2 of us. But in OT, there's 5 of us. So I'm hoping also in OT, half of their courses are hybrid. So I'm really hoping to teach them some things and get them plugged into your course and your program so that they can, it'll strengthen. And this became even more evident when I was writing our self-study for OTA this summer while I was teaching this class. And many of the questions, the standards, or the questions related to standards had to do with how are we teaching online. It's one thing to just move something to online, but is it done well, and are the students learning in our assessments? Are we assessing what we're supposed to? So, yes.
For my benefit, since I'm new, can you explain to me a little bit more about what is meant by hybrid? Like what components and questions?
And I have 2 definitions because in our college and what has been communicated to us as chairs is that a hybrid needs to be at least 50% online content. Now, I spoke to Laura about that in our process of doing this, and she had not heard that percentage. And I don't know if that was a university thing or if that's something just came from our dean, but we meet approximately 50% in the classroom face-to-face, and the other half of the content is delivered online. So in OT, that means we meet almost every other week. And then in the weeks there's no face-to-face meeting, then we have online content for them with assessments. And then, so I don't know the official definition of hybrid other than the fact there is some face-to-face and online.
Overall, it meets the learning outcomes.
Right, right. And in occupational therapy and occupational therapy assistant, both programs we have accreditation standards. They're very similar for both programs. Assistant is an associate degree, and OT is master's. So even though they're associate and masters, they're very similar standards. This particular course is at the 3rd of 4 semesters for OTA, so it's kind of a culmination of topics that are more professionalism, management, career, how to manage your own career, things like that. So that's the management for the OTA course is kind of focused on those things. Because OTA is an assistant degree and we have 175 standards that we have to meet, this course that was one of Laura and I's biggest challenges. Is I think I had 23 accreditation standards associated with the 10-week course, which is just ridiculous. I mean, it's not a good thing, and we worked on that through the self-study to try to improve that. But the hardest thing was creating I had done it in a way where I made themes for the standards. So there's a theme of career development, and there's a theme for ethics, and there's a theme. The standards can be kind of organized into groups. And Laura helped me do that by having modular objectives. So we just kind of moved those themes into modular objectives. And then we had those accreditation standards are in that modular objective. Then we created the course activities and things. Now, some of the things I had taught it before, so some of the activities I had already created. Some things I started new and tried something new. So in the past, I never had this course in modules. So I think that was really an improvement. So we divided the first 1 to 3 weeks was going to be on these topics. And then under each one of these, the students could see, I probably should have showed you the course calendar first, but, they had, what are their assignments? That's always what they care about. How many points are they worth? They prioritize depending on the value, how big impact those points have. They're just typical students when it comes to that. But let me go ahead and pull up the course calendar so you can kind of see the big picture. This was we tried multiple versions of this because we wanted it to be very easy to, for the students to look at and say, oh, okay, week 1, the course actually met face-to-face on Wednesdays, but we decided to start the week on Mondays, just because on the online weeks, we didn't need to have things due on Wednesday, so it was a little bit, it's trickier for hybrids because you meet sometimes and then you don't meet sometimes. So this was the final design that Laura came up with and helped me a lot because mine wasn't making sense and I didn't know how to improve it. We essentially had what's due this Wednesday and what's due on Sunday night. And that way, the week always started on Monday, but there were going to be some things that were due the day we met. And then some things that were due, just before the next week starts. So it's rather complicated looking, but I'll show you the list of what I did. I put the modular objectives up for the students on the course calendar. So one of their assignments is at the end of the course, they have to create a portfolio with all the accreditation standards and how they met them. So if they met a standard through an online quiz, if they met a standard through an activity or an assignment, they have to create a portfolio. And with a course that has 23 standards, it's really difficult for the students to put that puzzle together. So this, I got some good feedback on the course evaluations about this, that they liked that complex puzzle was kind of organized for them a little bit. But anyway, those were the standards, or these were the objectives we created based on the accreditation standards. So not only at the bottom of the calendar, I always have an assessment of what's worth what points. They're really worried about that. But also I reminded them about the due date because the calendar is, really packed with information and it would be easy for them to miss due dates. So any questions about the calendar or anything? It's pretty complicated if you aren't taking the class. It was complicated for me and I teach it. So
I guess I have a quick question.
mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious. Yeah, I saw the due dates were at noon. I guess what
We met on, if a due date was on a Wednesday, then it was due at noon, an hour before class, because we met at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And then I also made the due date on Sunday night, 10 o'clock, because I didn't want them waiting till midnight. We're trying to emphasize health here. So, Laura, can you add anything to that? As far as the due date, the time of the things due?
Right. We wanted exactly what you said. We wanted like on Wednesdays to whatever was due, it was before class. So that way, like Dr. Arvin could review with them, whatever they were supposed to submit by that time. So a lot of the activities build upon the ones that they have to get done before the class, right? So that way,
Right.
they're not
Kind
behind.
of flipped a little bit. I mean, I explained that to them at the beginning and they were used to that from my previous semesters of my teaching, that many times first thing we do in class is we're going to be talking about what they just turned in.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I was just curious as to,
Yeah.
because you don't do that very often.
Yeah. And it forces them to do it before the class, because otherwise, she might be doing an activity in class and then they haven't read, they haven't,
No, yeah, that makes sense. I was just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. There were, quite a few. It's a busy class. We do cover a lot of topics. I had several guest speakers come in. I was able to arrange a Zoom meeting with a speaker, a previous graduate of the program that is now doing case management, which is a very unusual job for an OTA assistant with somebody with an associate degree. So that was very valuable. She doesn't live around here, so it was helpful to know how, well, Laura had helped me, arrange the Zoom meeting, and it all worked beautifully as far as, technology, thank goodness. But to be able to tap into those, talk about a topic and then tap into somebody who's actually doing that job and they've graduated from here, and that was powerful, I think. Better than I could have ever taught it just myself. So having the ability to connect with people, from a distance is, I was always kind of afraid of that. 'Cause what if something fails and, technology doesn't work? And that's still possible. But I kind of had a backup plan with a FaceTime. We were going to work out something else if it didn't work out. It all worked out. So, I don't think of anything else unusual that was kind of, let me look at the calendar again.
And you can see like each activity has the objectives in parentheses.
Yes, she suggested that. Just, again, that was another way that the students could look at the bottom of the calendar and say, yes, this objective for this module is being met, and under that it includes these ACODE objectives. It helped them do their portfolio, but then it also just helped the student understand the why of what we're doing. I'm not just giving them busy work. I'm, it's actually part of their educational plan to be introduced and show some competency in all these different standards. So, for example, I'll just talk about some of the standards related to ethics. There's a lot of ethical emphasis on ethics from a medical standpoint, from a health provision of healthcare standpoint. And I only have these students in class 3 semesters. So I have to take them from working at McDonald's to being able to work in critical care at the hospital. Now, they're not in charge of the ventilator, thank goodness. But they are going to need to be able to assess patients, whether they can tolerate sitting up on the side of the bed, or whatever. They have to be able to think fast, and also they have to be able to understand the consequences if they don't document what they do, if they don't communicate well with other professionals. There's health consequences, life and death sometimes for patients. So there's just a lot to pack into 3 semesters with these students. And so this is kind of the final class where, we talk about, okay, now you've been taught what to do. Now you got to know why you do it and all the other stuff that goes into having a health profession or health career. And so we addressed ethics in different ways. I had already had some voice threads recorded from previous years, and so they watched some of those. But then I was able to link them to some things online through our national association. And I probably wouldn't have done all of that in a face-to-face meeting. I would have, I think I would have felt like, oh, I'm just showing them a movie. You know, we don't do that in class. We try to do active learning. So they did a lot of the sitting and listening and watching voice threads and maybe some videos online and connecting to the website. And then when we came to class, we did some things. We did case studies. We did some, the other part of this class is developing a business plan for a new OT program. And so we did some of that in class where they learned how to do a SWOT analysis, and they, you know, created their own vision and mission for their programs. And so we were able to do some of those things where they valued my feedback in class, face-to-face. What I think I could improve on is more immediate feedback when they did submit things online, because that I wasn't, Laura would probably agree, I was very slow about doing that. Sometimes I was doing it by email outside of the class, but not consistently with all students. So I think I could be better about that. So the discussion, we had a couple of discussion boards and things like that. I could be better about, you know, in being involved in the discussions on things. So do you have any other suggestions, Laura, or things that you think could be improved for next time it's offered?
No, I mean, everything looks great. Yeah. I don't know if you recorded the guest speakers, but that might be something to do like next time you teach it, in a way that if there's, you know, if there's like technical difficulties at some point, you can always make the older ones available. And also, you know, if it's fully online and students cannot meet at the same time, then you have those already available.
True.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion. I have done that for when a student is out for medical reasons. I've done that just with my face-to-face class meetings, and I didn't think of that. That's a good idea. Anything else? Any other questions? Or just the course mapping and making sure that if you have an objective, you have to show a way of assessing it. And even though we're an accredited program, we have so many standards. Some of those standards fall through the cracks, and we're not clearly assessing them. And that I'm going to use this exercise with all the faculty this fall, even with our face-to-face class meetings, because I think not only that, but the different types of assessments, you know, some of them are kind of high stakes, you know, some of them are just, what did we just talk about?
Right.
And reflections is a good way to assess, but it's not the only way. It's probably one of the easiest ways, except for giving them feedback on their reflection. But I think it just, because I was doing my accreditation review, my self-study, I think it just made me so acutely aware of where we're kind of, things are falling through the cracks, and how the process you do in advance can eliminate some of that. It's hard to do on the fly as you're teaching a course. So, and my students have had me for 3 semesters. They have me every semester. You know, they're a cohort, and they're in class together every day, all day. They don't take any other courses. So I have the advantage of being able to maybe change a few things and let them know. And, you know, if I was their only contact, they only had me for 1 course, I wouldn't take advantage of that extra access I have to them by communicating a little more clearly and in advance. That we, as a program, you know, sometimes we'll change a class time because we don't want them to miss out on the homelessness symposium, or, you know, something comes up that's more valuable at the moment, or another instructor needs us to switch times. You know, we do things like that somewhat frequently, as long as it's not too disrupting. I think that's very different than what you would typically see in a, you know, some of the other instructors that you guys are training. But anyway, the reason we do a lot of hybrid, I think, is because we do teach a lot of skills like just vital signs. And I teach a class where I teach them how to make braces and casts and, you know, orthopedic type things. So I'm sure there are programs like ours that are 100% online. So, but I don't know that I feel comfortable teaching class where they were having to brace or fracture and I wasn't physically there. So is there technology that's good enough to teach students that level of skill? I mean, I don't know.
There's always like Zoom meetings or like synchronous face-to-face meetings where you can demonstrate something like
And
that.
then see them demonstrate
Right.
that. Okay.
So, I mean, at that point, it's just a matter of making sure they have the correct supplies. Because I know there's a lot of, there's some chemistry classes that we offer online, and they have their own chemistry sets, and
They do
they meet,
experiments.
right, synchronously
Mhm.
that way, but the cost of getting the chemical supplies is a hindering factor. But there are ways to do things like that. So it's synchronous, it's face-to-face, it's just a matter of making sure they have the correct supplies.
You have to do it all
Right.
planning in advance.
Right.
And that, as a program chair, especially a program chair over a program that's run with two people, I'm always burning the candle at both ends. And having it done ahead of time and thinking things through and planning, students benefit so much from that. So my goal for my teaching personally is just to carve out the time ahead of time because it's so valuable. And this program kind of made me do that. And I do see the value in that.
I mean, and it could be like a flipped classroom, like the hybrid, where maybe you demonstrate it in a video that they watch, and then whenever they come to class,
That's exactly what I do.
Then they're already.
I have all my
Right.
we call it splinting, but it's
Mhm.
bracing and things. I have all of those individual things they have to make recorded on Pinocchio.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that would be better because I took, and this is not the same, but I took a CPR class, and I know that a video might not be enough because they need to really see the position of the hands and all that kind of stuff to be able to tell if you're doing it right. Because as you said, that's life and death, right? So.
And so that's why I'm thinking, like, at least if it was 100% online, doing a synchronous session where you can still walk them through, making sure, but it's also making sure that not only do they have the supplies on their end, but the technology is working appropriately from their end as well.
Right.
And so, I mean, making sure that it's still face-to-face, it could still happen.
Yeah. At times I think that it might even be better because I tend to get in there and kind of do it for them. And I have to sit on my hands a lot.
Right.
And so I wouldn't be able to do that
Right.
if I couldn't reach through the screen. So
Yeah.
that would be good. That would actually probably be better for them because they would have to do it.
Right.
So,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
so
Or if you recorded as you were doing the synchronous session, and then as they're preparing or practicing for something, they can go back and review certain segments.
Right.
Just the risk is just that,
Right. Yeah, the recordings are great from the student's perspective because they can watch a part of it over and over again. I teach them like 90 different assessments of joint range of motion, muscle strength, and all that. And I have each one of those recorded, and then they have PowerPoint, still slides of each one too. And that just saves so much classroom time.
Mhm.
And they're each available to each of them. They can practice on people at home. So that's been really helpful. They get really dependent on those a little bit. So I kind of have to say, okay, you have these videos, can't have them with you in the clinic. We got to just jump in and practice these skills. Nobody's going to die from getting their joint moved, So it's not life and death. It's just,
Right.
so But the other thing I was going to say about the recordings is the value of, from an assessment piece, for me to be able to see those presentations again or the student work again, because oftentimes the feedback I give them, they don't agree with.
Mhm.
And I can show them again, these were your objectives for your presentation. You didn't cover this at all, And so it's good from both
Right.
points of view. Or if I missed something, if they covered something and I didn't give them credit for it, they can happen in that direction too. So I really think this is going to change every course I teach. Really. And I know that sounds kind of lofty, but any new faculty, I think would be beneficial to go through this process, especially in OT where we do all teach hybrid. And at some point I'm I'm working with faculty to create some completion programs for our students, and they would be all online. And so this is going to really help us down the road for that. You'll be around, won't you, Laura?
Yes, I will. We'll send it our way.
Oh gosh, she was so patient with me. So it's really, we just, OTA goes all through the year except for third summer. So that's kind of our stop and take a breath time. And so she was working with me during, some of our busiest parts of the program. So, but it's all good. I mean, students, for this presentation, I didn't look closely at my course evaluations. I don't know if you got a chance to, did you, Laura?
No, I haven't.
You don't have access to those, or do you?
I don't think so. I think they send it to you directly.
Yeah, it's an email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have them. I just haven't had a chance to look at I always look at them before I teach it again because I want to, put things around. But
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they say.
the CQI is another process we do for the program. It's just continuous quality improvement to see how students value different courses and the content of different courses. And they don't value management stuff at this stage. They've never worked in their career, so they don't see themselves as being creating a business or anything like that. They don't even value the ethics yet, I don't think. What they really seem to value is what I teach them about the career. Part of this class, they had to create a resume. They got Kathy Weinsappel from the Career Center, gave them feedback on the resume, came over and spoke to them. I had them do a career map from now till when they get their first job, and what are the hurdles they have to cross. They have to pass their boards, they have to finish their field work, clinical work. They have a lot of stuff. One student told me that she thought it was just all nonsense, but 90% of the students, in front of everybody, she's just very verbal, and that's okay. But she's unfortunately going to be the one that needs the most help. She'll be calling me saying, now, how do I do this? Well, I don't remember. So that's okay. So the course evaluations, I look for themes like, they needed to know something more in advance, or they felt like the exams didn't address what we talked about. Those are the kind of things I need to know because I'm not clearly assessing. They don't see one. So. But it's improved my teaching for sure, and my the big picture of not only this course but where it fits in the curriculum, and so it was great.
Awesome. And in that sense, that Quality Matters review will also help.
Yes.
You're going to have like two people with in addition to, me again looking over the course, but two other people that have not seen the course, new set, how do you say it? Fresh set of eyes, yes.
Yeah. Right.
They're going to look and see like if there's anything that to them, they might need in advance, like you said, with the students. So that might be a good addition as well, the review. Mhm.
That will help me a lot.
Yeah.
Feedback is good.
Yeah.
I prep my students for that right off the bat because one of the main reasons they aren't successful is that they're defensive to feedback, And so I need to model something different. I need to show them that I get feedback from my bosses. I get feedback from them. Some of it's not very nice. Some of it's all anonymous, so therefore they can say whatever they want. Most of it's good. But there's something you can learn from anything, whether it's negative or positive. So they need to know that they're going to get feedback. That's part of our job is to tell them what they're really strong at, what they're not getting. And we do that in not a harmful way, but just a way so that they grow. And if they can learn that in the program, then they're going to do well. Because if you think you know it all and got it all when you're here, God help you. Because none of us do, no matter how long we've been doing it. So anyway, I can't really think of anything else magnificent about the course or anything really odd that I tried or anything unusual. I did use I created a lot more voice threads, which is nice because next year I'll have those then. I don't have to start over. I think with voice thread though, you just got to be careful that you're not also communicating things that are time sensitive. So for instance, if I'm talking about something that happened in politics this summer, I may have to re-record, that's right, or just otherwise, that's the tendency. In class, you just talk about current stuff and you answer all their questions about last night's assignment. And on voice threads, you've got to make sure that it's going to be, if you want to reuse it, you have to keep it kind of neutral. So that's, I think that's a skill that you get better with.
Well, and there's some faculty that they keep their lectures timeless, as we say, where they don't include very specifics. Then they also just do a short, weekly overview.
Oh, okay.
And so something that's maybe 1 to 2 minutes, maybe less than 5 minutes, that's more current, up to date. So that way you only have to replace that part.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Or I guess you could put it as the lecture, the first slide, let's recap last week, and then you could just delete the comment.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So you could just add a slide to your current voice thread that says, weekly recap or weekly overview.
Yeah, and I
where you can just talk for a couple minutes about making that part timely as part of the course.
Yeah.
Then making the rest of it just purely the subject matter.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I don't think I knew that I could add anything to a previous voice thread.
And I think VoiceThread is the best tool to be able to do that because you can record slide by slide instead of all of them at once, you can record one slide at a time. So if you need to change something, you just need to change that slide versus the entire lecture, which is a lot easier.
I did do that. I re-recorded a few slides, but I didn't know that I could add more.
Yeah.
And so maybe this time around you could change maybe something that included more specifics just to re-record that section, but then keep one part of it as the weekly recap or overview, whatever you want to call it.
That's a good idea. I do like to reference other things I've taught, like what we talked about last week, and if I mix up the course calendar, then the next year that's not going to be appropriate. So the other thing that accreditation strongly encourages us to have proctors and such for our exams. So I did almost all the exams online. I was not able to copy a quiz from last year's class forward on Blackboard. didn't come up. And that was just something,
You have to export them and import them into the new course.
okay. And you do that separately, even though you course copied forward. You should have copied. I just never got around to ask you about that, Laura. The last weeks of the semester were kind of,
Yeah, I can take a look at that.
yeah. That was the only technical problem I didn't figure out before the end of the course, but I think that would be helpful to know. Because we're going to be testing more and more online. I hate to say that in our courses we're not going to use the technology to assess, but we have to show the accreditation body that we are doing it and guaranteeing that that student is taking the tests and doing the work. So I'll need more help on that.
And we had one nursing class in particular that had students do it was like an exam. It was about a 20-minute video that they had them upload to, not YouTube, because that's not typically client, but to VoiceThread. So in case there were some assessments like that where they needed to demonstrate something, VoiceThread does have that capability where students could pre-record something and upload that to VoiceThread for you to assess.
Okay.
So there's lots of ideas.
Yeah, I have so much more to learn. Are you going to ever have a program that's kind of second generation for those of us that?
We are talking about it. Nothing officially, but we would like to see that happen.
Yeah.
Or we talk more about ideas for student engagement or student motivation, maybe more specifics about Blackboard features. Anything else, Laura?
More cutting edge topics, mobile learning, micro learning, all that kind of stuff that you could, implement. And we are still in the brainstorming stages. So we might contact you for feedback. The more feedback we have from you, or the faculty, the better.
Okay.
And we were talking to you about maybe having some sort of open forum for any questions to ask, like anyone could respond to them. So, but again, this is just ideas, nothing. I don't think we even talked to you about that, though.
No, right. We need to talk to the.
But we would like to see something like that, but we'll see what the future holds.
Mm-hmm.
What I think would be helpful once more of us have been through this program is just have a, how Gen Ed has study skills, where students who have trouble with algebra can go and have algebra help. I mean, truly, if I have trouble with VoiceThread, you guys are always open for us to do that, but the more and more of us that are teaching online, it's going to be pretty hard for you to be available all the time. But even if it's just, come over, show me how to make this quiz that's on Word, show me how to do that again, that kind of thing. Just help.
And actually, we're having the Tech Tool Time workshops coming up. They are on our website, and we're going to be covering topics like VoiceThread and Blackboard and Zoom.
They're just topic by topic, so you don't have to be in the whole course to get that. That's good.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You're way ahead of me, as always. As always. Your patience was very important.
You're so sweet.
Well, it just, we all have a lot on our plates, but this particular spring, timing-wise, was the best time for me to do it. But timing-wise, it was the worst time. So,
yeah.
So
your mom passed away,
I
right?
survived.
Yes.
What?
Me too.
Your mom passed away and everything.
Yeah, the day my self-study was due, my mom passed away.
Yeah.
And of course, I've been here all weekend trying to get it done. So I got there. I was with her when she died, but I had to come back and finish my self-study, which was kind of nuts. I don't even know what I submitted, to tell you the truth. But my students were wonderful. They always are. But having the hybrid format allowed me to, go ahead and give them some online content when I couldn't be here because there isn't anybody else that teaches the class. That's another, I don't want to take advantage of that, but in a crisis, it's very helpful. So, it does give us that option when we have to.